Hello again. Welcome to a brand new year. Let's hope this is a good one, folks. Sorry for skipping last week. With relatives, work, and other obligations, I just didn't have the wherewithal for doing a full video. Anyway, I wanted to start this year out easy with a nice, short, simple video. Let's see how that fares, but not before thanking my wonderful patrons who make these episodes possible. Links below. Now, what am I getting at with this title? Well, I've recently, and not so recently, had some very interesting discussions with friends and acquaintances about their reactions to certain pieces of media we both enjoy versus my own take on them and those we've seen among many others. But perhaps the best way to go forward with this is to provide examples. Thus, Dragon Ball Z, specifically Vegeta. Now, I do not like Vegeta, and I have no real interest in the fandom surrounding the Saiyans. To me, they were overhyped, jacked up by the author, and Vegeta especially egomaniacal speciest assholes who just happen to run across a bigger version of themselves and lose out. This, of course, doesn't make what Frieza did acceptable. Genocide is still genocide, and he is still a monster for it. But overall, I struggled to find any real depth in Vegeta and was okay with that. In contrast, a friend of mine loves the character, but not in that, oh, he is soft and ooh-ooh way, or in the he's so badass, he totally deserved to kill insert villain here way. But instead, by coming at him from the perspective of the colonized, imagining the indignity, the pain of being forced to bow and cow down to one who destroyed your people and culture, to obediently serve someone you know finds you to be less than a person and delights in your humiliation. It was in that dynamic of a proud man forced to yield to his conqueror, his destroyer, that they found his depth, found depth that I simply could not perceive. Our second example comes from RWBY, specifically Penny Polendina. Now, I'm not going to go into how I feel Penny is perhaps one of the only well-executed "this robot is also an autistic character" examples ever, i.e. because the various traits she has that code her as autistic to me seem entirely disconnected from her robotic nature rather than caused by it. No, instead I want to talk about the prospect of her as disabled rep, because being a literal-minded person, it never really made sense to me, largely because I cannot envision Penny outside her canonical context of being a robot. Thus, while she is very much a person, she might as well be an alien for all that I could fit her into my view of the real world. In contrast, the person I spoke with noted that a friend of theirs outlined that Penny's very nature lined up with their own experiences a lot. Because of her nature, she can't eat with her friends or sleep in the same manner. Even aura seems to work differently for her. It influences every part of her life and inadvertently others her. And naturally, these differing perspectives informed how we responded to what happened in the show itself. And this kind of stuff happens all the time, like those who find Scar's respective endings across 03 or Brotherhood offensive and the other good, or the other good and then the second one offensive, or who got entirely different messages from Amphibia than the one it was seemingly trying to sell. And let's not even approach Steven Universe's fandom. What I am trying to get at here isn't exactly a conclusion, perhaps more of a thesis statement or concept, namely that when we come into media, we all approach it with our own baggage and perspectives, both conscious and unconscious biases, as will the writers. Thus, not every single piece of media, even the most well-intentioned, will line up with everybody's lived experience. There is no universal baseline for a person, and it's unlikely, even if a writer did come out and say, this is what I meant, this was the analogy, this was the theme, that we could totally accept that because of subconscious bias. The reason I say this isn't a solid conclusion is because, well, there isn't exactly a conclusion to make. This is a very open-ended situation. It is, of course, certainly never right to tell others not to bring their own perspective to something, and it's important to remember that writers, regardless of intent, can still make missteps. But as I said, there's no universal reaction from even the smallest group of people, so I think it's important to keep in mind that others who share one's circumstances might reach a different conclusion. I know for a fact I don't agree with every other autistic viewer of RWBY, but I don't inherently think that alone invalidates either of our perspective takes. We're all just people. There isn't necessarily a right answer when it comes to how we respond, let alone analyze media, and I think the discourse would be helped if we all kept that in mind at times. And that's that. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to commission 3D art, please help me up on my Ko-fi, links below.